Hello, folks. This is Chuck Sutherland from the Time Is Now, and this is actually the Time Is Now paranormal segments. And our guest here today is Susan from Michigan. She has numerous encounters to share, but our segment to kick off the show will be The Mirror, and of course, the Berkeley House. But this will be our first installment of several experiences that Susan has agreed to share. So without further ado, Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you having me.
It's an honor to have you be here. Susan is actually a friend of mine, and I've known for quite some time now. And she has so many different paranormal encounters and things and experiences that have happened, from orbs to UFOs to whatever. But this segment that we're going to go ahead, we're actually going to start towards the end and work our way back to the beginning of the what we are calling the Berkeley House. But this one is actually going to be called The Mirror, and I'm going to go ahead and stop talking and let Susan go ahead and allow her to share some things with us today.
Well, as Chuck stated, this is just one of many incidences that occurred within the Berkeley House. And I would have to say this was one of the experiences that I had that actually frightened me the most. So saying that, this is basically my story. It was in the summer. It was probably the year 1978. And I had put my daughter down for her nap. When I do that, it's laundry time for me because the laundry is in the basement, and I don't like leaving my kids unsupervised. So I had gone down to take out a load of laundry, and I had always gone over there. There was a finished basement, and there was a bar. And behind that bar, there were glass mirror tiles. And I would always go over to the bar and fold the kids' clothes. It was just easier, and then I'd put them in the basket and carry them upstairs. So on this occasion, that's what I was doing, folding their clothes, and I started putting them in the basket. And when I looked up, and I looked at the mirror, where my face should have been was nothing but a black hole. You could see my hair, you could see my body, but my actual face was just a black hole. It scared me to death.
Now, when you say black hole, was it a hole, or was it just your face was blacked out?
It was just like, it was an emptiness. It was like void of anything other than darkness. So obviously it frightened me quite a bit. And I went running upstairs, and the first thing I did was get on the phone and call my cousin who lived close by. And I was probably sounding pretty hysterical at that point. And she was kind of telling me, you're crazy, you're just tired, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, no, it isn't any of that. I need you over here now. So she finally agreed, and she showed up probably about an hour later. And again, I reiterated the story to her of what happened. So
And this is downstairs at your house?
Yes,
okay.
downstairs. Okay. And so she looked at me like, you are a crazy woman, but I'm going to stand by you and show you there's nothing there. There's nothing wrong. So let's go downstairs and let's, go look at the mirror. And I'm like, I don't want to. And she's like, I'm going to be with you. We'll be fine. So needless to say, she finally convinced me to go back down there with her. We went back down, and as we approached the bar, we looked at the mirror, and not only was there still that black emptiness hole where my face should have been, there was the same with her. She had no face. It was just a black, empty void. And we both at the same time turned around and started running. Mm-hmm. And we're literally stumbling each other trying to get up the steps. And as she's running up the steps, she says to me, oh my God, something just brushed my leg. So it was this incident that made me realize there was more to the Berkeley House than I had bargained for. And it just elevated from them.
Now, did she stick around after that? I mean, I'm sure you guys were pretty scared. So
Oh yes, we were very scared.
okay. And did you? Because your husband at the time he was at work,
He was a semi driver, so he was on the road a lot. He was gone, most of the time.
so it was just you and the kids.
Basically, me and the kids.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and it was like after that experience, then the things that were happening in the house elevated quite a bit, and it was a very scary time. As a mother, your first concern is to protect your children, protect your children.
Sure.
I tried to discuss this with my husband, and basically he said to me, I think you're going a little insane, being stuck in the house with 2 kids, no car. It's going to be okay, honey.
The voice of reason.
The voice of reason. But he, in time, and it took quite a while. It played games. Things would not happen when he was home. Only when I was there alone with my girls. And but his time came.
To where it showed itself.
Oh
to him.
yes,
Very
and
good. So I'm gonna, just because of this first one that we're going to be talking about, I'm gonna kind of direct you toward your children.
yes,
And actually, because I found this fascinating, what you were telling me with your daughter Lisa, and the things that had when she was like really, really younger in the house. Like,
Right.
I think you said she was 4 years old. Tell me about the count,
okay,
or tell us about the audience about the count.
okay. We started finding Lisa, who's my oldest daughter, sleeping in strange areas of the house. We would find her curled up in the middle of the hallway, in the living room, kitchen. A lot of times she would come upstairs, which was our bedroom. The house was a bungalow, and we would find her curled up on the couch up there. And I had noticed for some time that there was the smell of feces in her room at night.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I knew just from reading and, whatever, that that's not a good sign at all. And so I was very concerned for her. She finally,
Now, when you said or feces, it's like basically it smelled like of death, or just real
vile,
bad, or
just vile.
like garbage, or
No, it was more
where's
like feces, just,
ooh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, very strong, very pungent.
Did you ever see flies or anything? I know that's like one of those weird things that from the movies, but I've heard
Well-
stories about actually flies around the windows and things that would be there and then not be
I
there.
did have actually that experience. It was a one-time experience. It was during the day, and I was in my kitchen. And in the kitchen, there was a window over the sink, and then there was a big window where the eating area was. And I was, doing dishes at the sink, and then I noticed, a couple flies on the window. And then I'd look back, and there'd be like 5 more, and then 5 more. And I looked over at the window that faced the street where the eating area was, same thing.
Wow.
Flies were just appearing out of nowhere.
On the inside.
On the inside of the house. There were hundreds of them.
Wow.
And
Do you think that had any correlation with the smell? Or that wasn't
I
in
think,
the bedroom?
no, I don't think no, because it wasn't in her room.
Okay.
It was just another experience. And for me, of course, I associated it with, again, bad.
Right.
And it was like they came and they just stayed on the windows, and then they were gone.
Wow.
I mean, they were just gone. Just like they came, all of a sudden they're not there anymore. So I did have experience with flies. It was a one-time thing, but once was enough for me. Thank
Right.
you very much.
So how did the count, when did they first, or did
The-
Lisa first tell you about the count?
The count. She actually came to me and told me that the count was visiting her at night. And of course I perked up because, we had smelled the smell in her bedroom. And I asked her what she meant by the count. And she said, she was 4 years old. She identified it as like the count on Sesame Street. Okay, so the count on Sesame Street is caped in black, all black. And she she said that she was seeing this every night. Well, that kind of explained why she wasn't sleeping in her room and why there was smells. Now I knew that we were getting into deep territory here.
Uh-huh.
Enough. And I was getting very concerned. And back then, you just didn't talk about this kind of stuff. You were looked at, as my husband would say, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. But this was truly affecting my child in a very bad way.
So it was keeping her from sleeping in her room.
Yes.
At that age, and this is probably right around 4 years old?
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going to cruise forward ahead a couple
Okay.
years to when she got older to the... Go ahead and tell us about her friend, or shall we talk about Freddie?
Freddie. Freddie was actually the final straw for me. We had lived in this house for 9 years. And most of those 9 years, we were experiencing paranormal activity every day. And we were stuck, like many people are. We didn't have the money to get out. And so, it was just a matter of trying to protect my kids and myself. But with Freddie, she had come out of her bedroom in the morning, and I was in the kitchen. And she walked up to me, and she said, "Mom, I have to tell you something. There's a man that comes to me every night, and his name is Freddie. And he told me if I tell you, he's going to hurt you, and he's going to start coming to me at night as a skeleton if I tell you about him."
Wow. And this is 7 years old.
Yes, and she said he did show her his skeletal form, and it scared her, and that's why she
Reached out to
me. And
So do you think that she's been talking to Freddie before you found out that
yes,
she was
I do,
Okay.
because she said to me, he just wanted to be my friend. That's what he kept saying. I
That's
just want to
freaky.
be your friend. But when he showed her this other form of himself, 7-year-old kid, she was scared. Thank God she came to Mom and was, told me about it. And as many of you are, you can feel sometimes spirit energy, which for me, I do quite frequently. And in that moment of her telling me, the best way I describe it is he was just all over me. I mean, my whole body was like hair standing up everywhere. And I knew this was a bad situation and something had to be done. So I tried in my mind to make him go. People that had helped me, and that'll be up for further discussion down the road, they actually helped me with certain prayers and certain things to do to try to get rid of these entities.
Okay.
They explained to me that there was a portal, and they would just keep coming. And in fact, that did happen. I mean, it was for 9 years. It never stopped. So with him, he was just, he was not happy that she told me. And I got on the phone with my mother. Now some of my family members were involved with what was going on in the Berkeley house. And my mother was one of them. And I felt that I needed some extra strength. We deal in the spiritual world of God in fighting these things. And I asked her to come over. I told her I needed help. And she, of course, agreed. So I put my daughter down for a nap, and my mom showed up. Wait, let me backtrack.
Okay.
Before I called my mom, I asked my daughter to draw me a picture of Freddie. She told me that he was a ghost. So as a mother of a 7-year-old child, in my intelligence, I'm thinking, okay, she's going to draw like a Casper. These kids have not, watched anything that has to do with ghosts,
There wasn't cable back then.
No,
there was no
wasn't.
shows.
No,
None
no.
of that was on TV.
No, none of that was on TV.
And here in Michigan, we had what? 2, 4, 7.
50, 62.
Yep. Canada,
Yeah.
Channel 9 or something. So
Yep,
there was
Channel
we
9.
were limited to what. There was none of that stuff.
Right, and it was never talked about. That was like, you didn't talk about this back then.
Sure.
So what I did prior to calling my mom, I asked my daughter, because I needed to see myself what she was seeing. And I gave her a piece of paper and some crayons. And I said, "Can you draw a picture of Freddie for me?" And she was, "Yeah, I can, Mom." So she sat down with a piece, it was just a piece of blank paper and some crayons. And to my surprise, she didn't draw anything like I thought she would draw. She drew a man who had blonde curly hair and blue eyes. And I'm thinking, now I know, this is something that's not good. If she was a child and thinking ghost, it would have been a Casper type ghost, not an actual physical looking being.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I put her down for the nap and called my mom. And my mom came over and I showed her the picture and I explained to her what was going on. And through this whole time, I can feel this Freddie. I can feel his energy. Well, in the course of, talking to Mom, whatever, and how we should handle it, my daughter woke up. And so I had to go get her. And we thought it would be a good visual for her, seeing she was young, to watch us burn the paper with the picture of Freddie on it. And once that was burned, he would be banished and could never come back. And it sounded like a good idea, right? So what we did was we took a pie tin, put it in the sink, took the piece of paper, and we started trying to burn it. And it would catch fire, but as soon as it would catch fire, it would go out. This happened numerous times. My mother and I are both cocking our head, looking at each other like, what the hell is going on here? So we decide, because we're trying to do this for my daughter for a visual too, and this is not showing too well at this point, and we're verbally telling Freddie, he's got to go. You cannot stay here. You are not welcome here, So we then got a can of lighter fluid out and said, this is the answer to our problem, right? So we squirted the paper with lighter fluid, and we lit it, and it went out.
No way.
Yeah. It probably took us 8 times of pouring fluid on it, trying to burn it. But then it did not burn like paper should have burned either. When you burn paper, it crumples up. It's it's black. It's got ridges. This didn't do this. All it did was turn the paper black. It didn't, it was just now a black piece of paper. And standing there looking at it, we could see the colors from her crayon drawing of Freddie kept bleeding through the black.
That's creepy.
No matter what we did. And, that was, we did get rid of him. It took a lot of work, and we were able to get rid of him. But for me, that was the final straw in the Berkeley house.
Wow.
I had enough, and my kids had been through enough.
Amazing. That's absolutely amazing, and definitely creepy in both counts when you look at that. But just when you're dealing with your children, and something is happening and you don't quite understand, and this is some time ago,
right?
With what we see now on TV and the shows and all the stuff that's out there and on the internet, the information that is out there wasn't this kind of information
there wasn't.
at this time, and there wasn't people like they have now that could help you and could do to that. So
yeah, they judged you,
Oh, sure.
And
because you reached out to the church for help, didn't you?
I reached out to 2 different churches. I also reached out to, there was a metaphysical store actually on 12 Mile in Berkeley at the time. But this was a very voodoo topic. Back then, you were considered, you're out of your mind, woman.
Huh.
So you feel so helpless. You are helpless. And I don't know. There was no resources back then. There just wasn't. And without my family being supportive, but my family experienced it too. They knew, that this, I was not making this up. This was not, a stay-at-home mom going crazy with 2 little girls in her house. So without their support, I honestly don't know what would have happened.
Well, this is actually starting from the
end.
The end of the story of the Berkeley house and moving. We're going to go backwards with these segments. I want to go ahead and cut you off there for right now.
Okay.
And thank you for sharing that bit. This is going to actually be the first installment of what I'm going to put out here and put out to the people. I'm going to share it on The Time Is Now. I'm going to share it on the Michigan Paranormal Hunters and on my personal page and the YouTube channel. But we'll actually end here because it's so unique and fascinating and scary. And we're going to go backwards from here and go ahead and start the rest of the series because I know you got a ton more
Yes, I
to
do.
share with us and from different genres and different experiences, including the house you're in now,
Yes.
which is the things that I've actually been blessed to come on out and you've shared with me. So again, Susan, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come on out here, and we will continue this, and time is now.
Time is now. Thank you very much, Chuck, for having me.
Thank you, Susan, for being on the show. And that's it for right now, folks. And stay tuned because we have more coming your way. Oh, perfect.